Hey everybody, welcome back to Dana's Domain. Right now we're going to talk about the VRF transition for refrigerants and all of the EPA direct final rule implications that came out this past December. So it took a long time for all these things to work their way through, but it's final. And so at this point, VRF systems have a transition date of January 1st, 2026. And what that means is that after that date, the products coming into the United States for VRF systems above 65,000 BTUs would need to have an A2L, be at a lower GWP than R410A. And so we're in that transition. So all through this year, R410A systems can be installed, and all through next year, R410A VRF systems can continue to be installed so long as the product is imported by the end of this calendar year, 2025. So we'll have plenty of opportunity for products to be sold throughout the United States, and we'll be transitioning to R32 products to make sure that there's as little of a gap between those as possible. Obviously, there's a fair number of different design considerations associated with R32 and A2Ls that are quite detailed and weedy, and I'm not going to get into all of that at this point. But I definitely recommend, if you haven't spent some time looking at the implications of sensors and mitigation factors and releasable charge limits, that you're availing yourself of the various information in order to prepare for appropriate design work in years ahead. It seems like a lot, but it's really not that complicated, and ultimately it requires you to simply, have more connected spaces and probably use more condensers with smaller total volume of refrigerant in them. So that's my little sort of off-the-cuff piece with that. So one of the things I want to talk about with the refrigerant transition for VRF is that we will continue to be able to import R410A indoor and outdoor units, condensers and evaporators, for purposes of maintaining VRF systems for their entire life cycle. And so there is a limit on the total percentage of the system that can be replaced over time, but it's very close to all of it. So the limit is no more than 100% of the outdoor condensers and that's an important 75% of the indoor units. So if you had a system with several condensers and let's say 100 indoor units, you would be able to replace, that's not really a great example. So let's imagine that if you had a VRF system with a handful of compressors, outside condensers, and many evaporators, you could replace all of the outdoor rooftop units and up to 75% of all of the indoor units before you would trigger a categorization as a new installation that would require you to transition the whole building to A2Ls. So it's a very, very high limit on the total replacement of the system. And I don't think that there are very many VRF systems where you go to that level of replacement even in the entire life cycle of the system. And of course, since there are no limits or restrictions on import except for labeling that it's for service only for all the units that are imported after January 1st, 2026, those components will continue to be available to maintain those systems in the long run.